The Amero, the Amero, the Amero.
Episode 5: The US Dollar, Strength, Debt, and Global Power. Season 2: North America Under Pressure. Welcome back to the kitchen table. I want to present you with one of the greatest paradoxes in modern economics. The United States currently holds a national debt exceeding $37 trillion. It runs massive, persistent trade deficits. Its political system is deeply polarized. By conventional household logic, a borrower with this profile should be cut off by the bank. Yet, when a crisis strikes anywhere in the world, a war, a pandemic, or a market crash, what do global investors, foreign central banks, and everyday citizens rush to buy? The United States dollar. Even amid fierce criticism, the world's trade and foreign exchange reserves continue to run on American money. Why? How can a heavily indebted country still issue the world's undisputed dominant currency? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of the Amero, Digital Bridge to the FinTech Future. I'm your host, Chisun Lee. Today, we are putting on our reserve currency scholar hats. For our investors, policymakers, and crypto builders, we are dissecting the superpower of the US dollar. We are going to explore the invisible mechanics of the dollar, safe assets, global network effects, the weaponization of sanctions, and how stablecoins are unexpectedly saving the dollar. We will address a vital counterargument that multipolar trade and alternative digital payment systems are actively reducing the world's dependence on America. And finally, we will clarify a critical misconception: why a digital Amero framework would likely extend, not automatically replace, US dollar influence across the continent. To understand the dollar, we have to look past the debt numbers and look at the concept of the network effect. Why do you speak English in international business meetings? Not necessarily because it is the best language, but because it is the language everyone else speaks. Money works the exact same way. Oil from Saudi Arabia, electronics from China, and copper from Canada are all priced in US dollars. Because the dollar is the universal language of trade, countries must hold massive reserves of dollars just to participate in the global economy. But where do they hold these dollars? They do not stuff physical cash in a mattress. They buy United States Treasury bonds. This is the secret engine of US financial power, the safe asset. As Nobel laureate Paul Krugman has pointed out, countries whose currencies play no exceptional role are perfectly capable of running deficits over long periods of time. All that matters is that they are perceived as reliable debtors who offer good investment opportunities. The US Treasury market is the deepest, most liquid, and most reliable debt market in human history. The world needs a safe place to park its savings, and the US government provides it by issuing debt. Ironically, the rise of digital finance, specifically cryptocurrency, has not destroyed the dollar. It has reinforced it. When we look at decentralized finance today, the most widely used assets are stablecoins, digital tokens pegged exactly to the US dollar. While purists dream of Bitcoin replacing fiat money, the reality is that users in emerging markets are using stablecoins to easily hold digital dollars, expanding the dollar's influence far beyond the control of traditional analog banks. But here is where the story shifts, because the United States has begun to use the dollar not just as a tool of trade, but as a weapon of geopolitics. Because global transactions must pass through US dollar clearing systems like SWIFT, the US government can effectively lock any country out of the global economy through sanctions. This brings us to our core counter-argument. For decades, the world accepted the dollar's dominance because it provided stability. But today, multipolar trade and alternative payment systems are actively reducing this dependence. As the geopolitical tensions rise, BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are actively exploring new reserve assets for trade to bypass the dollar, reacting to a world where financial infrastructure has become a geopolitical weapon. China's central bank digital currency, the e-CNY, has moved from pilot to widespread use to settle trade. Even Europe is pursuing strategic autonomy to protect its own financial sovereignty. Here, we must make a vital distinction for investors. We must distinguish a dollar decline from a dollar collapse. Internet pundits love to predict that the dollar will collapse into hyperinflation tomorrow and go to zero. That is a myth. The US economy is too innovative, its military too strong, and its capital markets too deep for a sudden collapse. What we are actually witnessing is a slow, methodical decline in market share. We are moving from a unipolar world where the dollar controls 70% of everything to a multipolar world where the dollar must share the stage with the euro, regional digital currencies, and tokenized commodities. So, how does the Amero fit into this shifting global chessboard? Many critics assume that a North American monetary union would mean the death of the US dollar. In reality, the exact opposite is true. If the dollar is losing its global monopoly, the United States has an overwhelming strategic incentive to secure its immediate economic neighborhood. As early Amero proposals and modern policy analysis suggest, U.S. leaders could view a shared North American framework as a tool to formalize American leadership, lock in U.S. economic influence over the continent, and serve as a powerful counterweight to emerging Asian digital currencies. A digital Amero framework built on interoperable technology like the XRP ledger and regulated stablecoins would not erase the dollar. It would likely extend dollar-based settlement logic, offering Canada and Mexico the efficiency of a single digital market while giving them vital governance safeguards and shock-absorbing mechanisms they wouldn't get by simply adopting the US dollar unilaterally. The dollar is not dying, it is evolving, and North America must build the digital bridge to accommodate that evolution before the rest of the world builds it for us. Before we close today, let's bring this massive geopolitical topic back to the kitchen table with our weekly Q&A. Question 1. What does reserve currency actually mean for me, the average citizen? It means an invisible subsidy on your cost of living. Because the world constantly needs US dollars to trade, there is always a high demand for American debt. This allows the US government and American consumers to borrow money at artificially lower interest rates than they otherwise could. It also keeps the purchasing power of the dollar strong, making imported goods like electronics, cars, and clothing cheaper for North American consumers. Question 2. If stablecoins are digital dollars, won't they eventually replace the physical dollar? They won't replace the dollar, they are just a new wrapper for it. When a company issues a regulated stablecoin, they take a physical dollar or a US Treasury bond and lock it in a bank vault, then issue a digital token representing that dollar on the blockchain. Stablecoins don't replace the US currency system. They actually increase the demand for US Treasury bonds, indirectly funding the US government debt while making the dollar move at the speed of the internet. Question 3. What is the call to action for today? Understanding the fate of the dollar is the most important skill an investor can have this decade. You need to know the difference between internet doom scrolling and actual monetary policy. Drop a comment below with the word dollar, and I will send you our exclusive policy briefing. It breaks down exactly how stablecoins, CBDCs, and BRICS initiatives are reshaping the global reserve landscape. I'm Chae-Soon Lee. Thank you for seeking the truth behind the money. I will see you next week on the Amero.
Make me